John, what's coming up on the show today?
Jim, we're going to have an update on how my KRO 2024 favorites collection is doing, and then we're going to focus on a couple of them that I think are going to be superstars this year, and those are Hercules Silver and Solitario Resources Corp.
How is your 2024 favorites collection doing so far this year?
Well, Jim, I started off cautiously with only 8 companies on the list, and 3 of them were advanced lithium companies, Patriot Battery Metals, Brunswick Exploration, and ASX-listed Winsome Resources. But the downtrend that started in sort of November, December for the lithium stocks, it became brutal in January, and these ones in particular were hit the hardest. In fact, Brunswick is down 48% from what it started at, even though it's got a major drill program underway at its Mirage discovery and has a second drill program starting on the Elrond project. Winsome has delivered good news, but because the lithium carbonate price tanked almost below $6 a pound amid a sudden reversal of the supply demand imbalance that had manifested itself in late 2021 right until about mid 2023. That has reversed because EV sales growth has slowed down, and the Australian production response has been pretty substantial in response to the very high prices. So these 3 stocks really dragged down the index, which was down at one point 19%. It's now down only about 9%. So it has reversed, and we are seeing the sort of the lithium market stabilize. And I added last week. I added Canalaska Uranium to the list. Promoted it from the Bottom Fish collection, and it after it reported a major intersection that tells us that they may be onto a MacArthur scale discovery, which is a potential multi-billion-dollar outcome, and the project's only valued at about $200 million right now. So there's an unfolding discovery exploration play. And a Patriot Battery Metal in the lithium sector, it has also bounced back after getting almost down to $6 a share. It's now back to $9 a share as the market realizes, okay, even any lithium carbonate price below $10 a pound is not going to support what's needed by 2030 for the EV deployment escalation that we expect to happen when they finally have some affordable cars that the ordinary individual wants to have, cars that have 1,000-kilometer range on a 10-minute charge, and that is priced in the same way a Camry is priced today. So that market sentiment's changing around. It's still got a long way to go, but I think that the lithium members of my index will do well. The super upside will come from projects such as Canalaska Uranium, Arizona Gold, when it finally gets drilling on the BLM permitting portion of the property. Solitario and Hercules. Hercules already has a substantial market valuation, but again, we're in a game of a couple $billion-dollar outcome. And Solitario, it's a fantastic gold play, and the only thing that's holding the stock back now is confirmation that they have a drill permit.
What are the implications of the final results Hercules Silver released for last year's drill program?
Hercules Silver, which plans to change its name to Hercules Metals Corp to reflect the fact that it's no longer just a silver-focused company, it put out an update on February 28th, which included a bunch of silver holes from the old Hercules adit area where there already are 400 holes. This one was drilled a little deeper. True width was not known. The market kind of shrugged because we already know that the zinc lead silver vein system that's hosted by the rhyolites, that's not going to make a mine. That's not why Barrick invested $23 million last year at a premium to the market. No, it's about the copper story that's evolving. And if you read the press release carefully, it was the geological talk in it that I found really interesting. And they still haven't published the updated IP survey that they have done. If you go to their presentation, you look at the deep IP anomaly, which is what Discovery Hole 5 intersected when they drilled beneath the rhyolites into the underlying andesites, which host the copper mineralization. The first hole hit quite high grade, and then the follow-up holes didn't hit the sort of high grade you want for an underground mining operation. And I talked to the CEO, Chris Paul, at the PDAC a week and a half ago, and he confirmed what I was reading from the press release. Namely, they now think that the guts of this porphyry system is actually to the northwest, where no exploration has been done, because that's where even much younger basalt cover is sitting on top of the bedrock or the older rock that is prospective for mineralization. And he explained that the rhyolite that hosts the silver mineralization, it's actually a thrust fault separating it from the underlying andesites, and it's come from the northwest towards the southeast. And when they originally did the IP survey last year, which became the focus for drilling the deeper holes into the copper potential, they assumed everything went to the southeast. But they now realize that they went the wrong direction, and they can't go back and drill until May or so because of access problems. It gets very muddy and difficult to move around. So we're in a bit of a in-between exploration programs lull. But what's really interesting that I learned is there is a staking frenzy happening in Idaho, because what the big groups, Rio Tinto and Barrick's deal with Hercules Silver, it only has a couple kilometers area of interest, and they are out there now doing traditional post-staking. Now in Canada, most of Canada is now map staking, online map staking. You just get out your credit card and you figure out what the rectangles or squares you want, and you tag them and pay for it, and you own these claims until the assessment work is due. In the United States, you still have to do post-staking, just like in the good old days. And there are two sets of rules. There's BLM land with its own rules, and then there's state land, which is has its own particular rules. And there's now a 200-kilometer trend, largely masked by these younger basalt flows that are of relatively thin veneer, which is now recognized as a major porphyry trend that has never really been explored for. And so we have Hercules Silver not publishing its latest IP survey, which presumably has been done in the direction of the northwest. They're keeping this secret for now because they don't want to help the competition. Now, obviously, Barrick gets to see what's going on there, but and it's now a significant shareholder of Hercules, but they really don't want to help Rio Tinto, and whoever else out there that's in the copper game is out there trying to figure out the best locations to stake. So even though Hercules looks like it's okay in a lull between drill programs, there's a lot going on in the background on which there will be a lot more light shed down the road when pretty much everything is staked up and we start seeing the huge land positions that have been taken out. So this is why, with the rethinking of the of where the porphyry system actually originated from, and they've been using doing age dating to sort of figure out the different years or periods for the mineralization, and the age dating has helped them realize this is a multi-phased system, and multi-phased is the word you want to hear, because if you have an intrusion come in somewhere and it sits there and stews and sends the fluids up through the rocks and then basically dies, that's a single phase system. But the really rich deposits are created when there are multiple pulses of the magma coming up through the reheating the intrusion and remobilizing mineralization that's already been harvested from surrounding rock and concentrated, and then reconcentrating it into an even higher grade system. And this is what they're hoping, that this part of Idaho has, because obviously most of it's not going to be open pittable. So we're going to need those grades of copper of 0.6% or higher. So I think this summer is going to be an incredible summer for Hercules Silver, soon to be renamed Hercules Metals Corp.
What's the latest news from Solitario Resources Corp about its Golden Crest project in South Dakota?
Solitario Resources Corp put out a press release on February 27th, which had two pieces of important information. One is that the comment period has ended. It was the 45 days kicked off in early December, plus the 30-day extension that the U.S. Forest Service added. And this is now being dealt with by the U.S. Forest Service. As I explained in an earlier Kaiser Watch episode, the company has no input in all of this. The comments are really like the U.S. Forest Service being graded by a professor for how good a job they did with their environmental assessment work. And from what was posted in the public comments, that wasn't rejected because the commenters didn't have any standing. It looks like there aren't any serious objections of things that the U.S. Forest Service might have forgotten to do that they might be required to redo. The Walt Hunt, who's done, spent decades doing permitting work, he thinks maybe by mid-April they'll have a decision. And of course, they can't really get in there until late May or June, again, because of access reasons. So if it takes a little bit longer, that's going to be okay. But what was really interesting in the press release is that they revealed a new zone called the Wild Rose Trend. And the company, when they first started talking about the Golden Crest project in 2021, they used a map that they had from 2020, and they showed quite a lot of locations with different, surface sample gold grade ranges, and then they suddenly stopped publishing anything except they would publish little close-ups of a new zone somewhere within that large Golden Crest land package where they had nice values, but they didn't let the public see where this was located. And when I saw the close-up that they gave on February 27th of the Wild Rose Trend, it turns out it's an extension of the downpour showing that they had talked about back in 2021 and shown the location of. So it's about 4 kilometers long, and I looked at the old map and I can see, this project's right beyond the old claim boundaries. And then I went to the U.S. Forest Service site to look up the document that had been filed, which everybody's commenting on. And in there's all these wonderful maps showing the current property boundaries, plus all the locations that they have applied for drill permits. And most of them sort of wrap around the western part, and downpour is included as one of the areas that permits have been applied for. And I asked Chris Harold, what was the sort of choice of locations for drill permits? And he said, well, when we initially went in there, we went where the logging roads had already gone and where the trees had been logged off and logged away, and where the surface was relatively easy to prospect and start seeing what's on the ground there. And that's why this first plan of operations, for which we applied back in early 2022, those targets aren't necessarily our best ones. And he conceded that the downpour target, they will be drilling there first because they can see the structural trend to the northeast projecting to downpour. They have another plan of operations underway, which will soon enter the NEPA phase that the first one had gone through. Hopefully this time there aren't delays caused by problems elsewhere in the Black Hills National Forest, such as what happened early last year, and with the reservoir. Somebody wanted to do drilling near a reservoir that was a popular place for people from Rapid City, and they ended up solving that problem by putting a big staking moratorium around that reservoir so that there wouldn't be any concern about the reservoir getting messed up by exploration activity. But this area is on the western part of the Black Hills. Interestingly, the property boundary stops at the Wyoming border. And I asked, is this because Wyoming's a bad place to try and get anything done? They said, no, it's a coincidence that the north-south boundary between South Dakota and Wyoming happens to be also a major structural break, to the west of which there's zero potential within reach of any drill bit. So that's why the property seems to be in South Dakota only, even though the Black Hills National Forest extends to the west into Wyoming. Anyways, at PDAC, I talked to them, and they had some samples from the wild rose trend on display. One of them was the most boring-looking rock imaginable, but it was listed as grading about 30 grams per ton, and that's about 1 ounce per ton. So this is a reason that this area to the west of an area where 100 million ounces have been identified and largely mined since the start of the 20th century, this area has nothing in it. And yet when you see where they're finding all the gold values at surface, it's staggering that this could be a mirror image of what was discovered and mined in the eastern part of the Black Hills by Homestake with its fantastic 70 million ounce Homestake mine that is now shut down and is a place where they look for strange particles like the Higgs boson to try and figure out what makes the universe tick. But one of the other tidbits that I picked up from Chris and Walt was that they've done some geophysical surveys, and of course, the drill permits, the drilling requires these extensive permits. Geophysical surveys do not, and they have identified in the middle of the property, again, not where they have any drill permits pending, but they've identified an IP anomaly at about 400-meter depth, a very large one, several kilometers in diameter, and it's right near the unconformity between the basement that would host the Homestake style mineralization and the sedimentary layer cake above it that would have the younger sort of 60 to 35 million year old mineralization, such as what the Wharf system is all about. And the depth is where they project the Deadwood Horizon Formation that hosts the Wharf system to be. So they have already new targets for which they have, pending drill permits that go beyond what they are going to start drilling in June, assuming that we get the permit from the U.S. Forest Service and it doesn't end up getting tied up by some sort of legal challenge. And that's something you have to worry about, because in America, there is an entire industry of anti-mining, donate now, lifestyle entities that their whole job is to block mining and exploration in any way they can. Doesn't seem to be a problem in the Idaho area, but in other areas, these organizations, that's what is the basis of their existence, blocking exploration and mining in America.
John, thank you so much for the update.
You're welcome, Jim.
I'm Jim Goddard.